All right, welcome everybody. Got to talk about inflation. There's no doubt about it. Anybody who actually thought that there was going to be some sort of surprise to the downside as far as inflation was concerned, I actually had this conversation. I said the only way there's going to be a surprise to the downside is if it was a fugazi. If somebody got in and they messed around with the numbers and they put out some sort of fake report because it just made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Because again, this was May numbers. And since May, we've seen some prices come down when it comes to used cars, clothing. There's certain things that have happened in June over the past couple weeks that are starting to come down, which is good. But come on, people. It was the average price of gasoline's $4.99. What did you think was going to happen here? I mean, honestly, until we start dealing with that, you're going to continue to see elevated numbers. And there's I talk about inflation as a monetary problem. There's too much cash sloshing around. Yeah, that's an enormous part of it as well. But you actually take a look at the energy component right now. It's about 18% of the entire thing. And that obviously filters through to food and everything else. But we'll get into that in a bit. Everything in May. Shelter costs, energy, groceries, you name it. Give us the highest rate since 1981. Highest rate since 1981. Boy, oh boy. This administration's most certainly hitting it out of the park, aren't they? Couple that with this. University of Michigan sentiment collapses record low. From 58.4 to 50.2. Consumer sentiment. And again, I explained this yesterday on the program. It's some Mike Tyson gut punch. Whack, whack, whack. Again and again and again. So what does this mean? Markets sold off big yesterday. Right now they're off a large amount as well. We're going to be testing those levels that we saw back in May. Be honest with everybody, okay? We like to do worst case scenarios in our mind. And where we're at right now, you want to take some of the most bearish estimates out there. You got Mike Wilson putting out around a 32 to 3,400 case for the S&P. Is it possible? Absolutely. Okay, I'm not here to lie to you. Absolutely, it is completely possible that we continue to see the market wail away to the downside. It can happen. I don't think it's going to get that low. I think we could see maybe 3,500, 3,600 in that area, but it could go lower. So what do you do? What do you do? Boy, Markowski, you're all gloom and doom here. Talking about the markets going down to those levels. Listen, there's a myriad of issues and problems that are facing us right now, but they're not going to be here forever. They're not. I've done this before here. I talked about my crystal ball, and I can go through periods of time, 10-year periods of time, the 70s, 80s, whatever it may be, and you can see all of the things that have happened over that period of time, and you can take a look at the markets, and especially if you're smart, not just the markets as a whole, but you're smart when it comes to your portfolio and being involved in the right sectors, you can do well. You can do well. Is it painful to watch right now? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I think that there's a possibility that we could get some sort of reprieve come the fall and the latter parts of this year? Yeah. Yeah, I do. But again, it goes back to the fact to say, what are you? Are you a trader or are you an investor? How well have you done over the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years if you've been doing things the right way, even longer for many of our clients as well? How well have you done? And we've dealt with a lot. Yeah, we've dealt with .com collapses. We've dealt with the Great Recession and investment banks and banks going under left, right, all over the place. We've dealt with 9/11. We go right on down a litany of things that we've dealt with as a nation, and we always come through on the other side. It's time frame. It's time frame. Difficult for people out there that have a short-term time frame. And one of the things we like to talk about is understanding that you need to have a reasonable amount of cash. This is especially true for people that are senior citizens or people that are retired. You have to have a certain amount of cash set aside to cover periods like this because you don't want to go to your portfolio. You don't want to go into your portfolio to pay bills at the end of the month. That's the last thing in the world you want to do. I haven't. I'm not a senior citizen yet, but I have, again, I explained this, the money that's going to pay for my kids' tuition, which is this year and coming up the year after that. All of that is in cash and cash equivalents. Safety fund, cash and cash equivalents. And I don't like cash. Cash is trash. Inflation's killing my cash position. We all know this. But you need to do it because, again, you don't know what's going to happen with the markets over the short term. And I can turn around. You know what? Things could go in the opposite direction very quickly. I wrote a column, and we talked about this at great length. This is the end of January 2020. Storms ahead, basically predicting everything that's transpiring right now. Again, I don't know when these things are going to happen, but you kind of lay them out. What we did last year, many of our clients well aware, very simple. You gotta take some profits out of the tech sector. You gotta move that into energy stocks, which we did. Energy is getting extraordinarily frothy, but it's difficult to take some profits because oil prices keep going up, and up. But you gotta be smart, and you gotta start trimming some of those positions as well. And even on days like today. If today is your day of the month where you dollar cost average and you're putting money away into your 401k and you're investing, you do it. You do it. You don't try to second guess. Okay? It's impossible to do. No one in the history of time has been able to do this with any sort of excellent regularity. The old stopped watches right twice a day. That's what you get with these people who try to time the markets. Again, complete exercise in futility. Got to talk a little bit about energy. What's the national price? Gas price right now is $4.99 a gallon. It's about 40 years inflation adjusted since it's been that high. There was a story today. I don't know. This is a guy by the name of, I wasn't familiar with this guy. His name's Paul Dabber. He was, what was he? He was the assistant or deputy secretary of the energy, if I'm not mistaken. I'm having trouble here with this paper. What's going on with me here? Man, oh man, when they stick together, it drives me absolutely berserk. Holy mackerel. Can I get this here? There we go, Chris. Undersecretary Energy for Science, 2017 to 2021. Global oil markets experiencing unprecedented volatility in March and April 2020, with spot U.S. crude oil trading between 47 and, do you remember this, negative 37 a barrel. Remember that? COVID. That month, several energy ministers approached Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette with a stunning offer. They wanted the United States to start regularly coordinating energy supply with OPEC. Basically, it was like, hey, United States, you want to cooperate with us? You want to join OPEC too? And the minister's offer was an acknowledgement that the old days in which the U.S. was beholden to OPEC were over. It was explicit confirmation that the Trump administration's efforts to achieve energy dominance had worked. As the world's top crude producer and leading developer of exploration and production technology, America had effectively become the world's swing oil producer. It set global energy prices with its free market approach and unconventional production capabilities. We declined the offer. We did. But it's worth recalling how America went from being the world's largest importer of energy in the early 2000s to arriving at net energy exporter status in 2019. The shift happened for three reasons. U.S. energy technology innovation, policies that favored increased energy supply, and large investment by private markets. I actually wrote a column about this. It was, I don't know, it had to be 2003, 4, 5. I don't know. It was when energy prices started going up during the Bush administration. And if you do recall, again, it's going to stretch your memory a little bit. This is the early parts of the Bush administration, George W. Bush administration. There was a lot of trouble because Dick Cheney was meeting with oil executives, and a lot of the powers that be wanted cameras to be in the room. They wanted everything that was recorded. Basically, they were looking to develop the technologies that we utilized later on and develop them that allowed for fracking, that allowed for us to become that net energy exporter. And at the time, you had every media outlet out there saying, hey, energy prices are really low right now. Why in the world? Why in the world would the Bush administration, why would they want to go ahead and do something like this? This doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. Because, again, demand, supply, it can change. Why wouldn't we want to be independent? But again, we screwed ourselves. We really did. I'm actually, again, I'm amazed. You're actually seeing guys on, some of the left of center guys on some of these business news networks calling out the president and saying, what are you doing? How are you not meeting with these oil companies? How are you not changing direction when it comes to pipelines? All of these things that we could do that could completely change the narrative. President of the United States is an Italian phrase. It's a Testa Dura. Okay, he's a hardhead. He's thick-headed. How can you be so thick-headed, for crying out loud? How can you not deal with this issue? Again, they choose not to. And it's pretty sad. It is. A little bit on real estate here. And again, this is going to slowly filter its way into the inflation number. And like I said, I do predict the June number that was going to be read in July is going to be better. Outside right now of energy and food, but all of the other components will be. A story talking about how deep-pocketed buyers are starting to back away from the U.S. housing market. And again, you can do homework yourself. You can pick hot real estate markets around the country, and you can look on Trulia, and you start looking at various different listings in different price ranges, and you start seeing, they have that little arrow, prices are going down. I mean, they're reducing their prices. They are. You can also speak to certain real estate agents in certain areas of the country, and they're saying, well, I have this love-hate relationship with real estate agents because, a lot of them are crooks, but if you get good ones, they're fantastic. And I happen to know, and many clients, there happen to be good ones in parts of the country that are actually honest with their clients and saying, hey, you know what? Market's starting to change. It's starting to change to some degree. How could it not? We just had mortgage rates above 5%. I've never seen mortgage rates move this quickly. I can't recall it happening. I really can't. Now, granted, the first mortgage I had, my first house, my mortgage was over 7%. But from it to go to, what was it, 2.3, 2.4 to over 5 and a little over a year, that's a big move. And that most certainly is going to start hitting home prices and bringing them down. Business losses from Russia top $59 billion. Nearly 1,000 Western companies plan to leave the country or cut back operations. More write-downs expected. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure they're doing it now. Listen, I've talked about this, and I don't like covering this on the podcast. I don't like covering it on the show because I'm going to get emails from people and messages out there. Oh, could you not side with Ukraine? I want Ukraine to win. Okay? Just as much as like in the The early 1990s, I was a Yankees fan. Yankees stunk. I wanted them to win, but they just weren't going to win. And we've said this from the get-go. And we've also talked about the fact that you're not getting the truth. You're getting propaganda coming out of Ukraine. And some of the numbers are starting to come out where they were saying, 50 people were dying, soldiers were dying on the front lines every day. No, they're starting to be honest now. The numbers are over 200 a day. 200 a day. And like I said, Putin doesn't care. He's just going to keep going and going and going until he gets what he wants. And when all's said and done, this is my prediction. Everybody says that Russia is going to be a pariah state. I ain't buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm not. Okay. Let's say that there's some sort of settlement, which inevitably I think is going to happen. I think that Ukraine is going to unfortunately have to give up areas of land to Russia. It'll blow over. It'll blow over much faster than you think it will, as a matter of fact. Again, just my opinion. You might not think it's true. People saying, oh, no, that's not going to happen. Yeah, right, whatever. Look at this one. The World Health Organization finally admits its COVID lab leak theory is a possibility. Wow, you don't say. Gee, maybe the fact that you had a COVID sample inside the Wuhan laboratory that was a 96% match to the one that everybody first started getting. I don't know. Could be me calling me crazy. Yeah, remember how everybody, you were just knocked down? You were some sort of wacko and, you were anti-Asian and anti-Chinese if you actually pushed this idea? Jon Stewart did that bit on his comedy routine. I think he made the comparison to, Hershey, Pennsylvania. And wow, Jesus, there's chocolate bars outside of Hershey. It's a bloody infectious disease laboratory. It came from Wuhan. There's not that many of them around the globe. And it's bloody China, for crying out loud. Give me a break. Anyway. Oh, one more thing. We're going to short and sweet today on the podcast. For people traveling abroad. When I mention this, people traveling abroad this summer, and a lot of people have got plans to go away. The United States finally stopped the requirement. Stops on Sunday. Starting Monday, you do not need to be tested for COVID to get back into the United States. Yay! About time, kiddos. But when are we going to have to start checking for the whole monkeypox thing? Are we going to have to start wearing masks for that too? Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless. Watchdog on wallstreet.com.